Pepper steak, in my opinion, is one of those recipes that's super underrated, and honestly, one of the recipes that I tend to overlook. It comes together in 30 minutes or less, it's relatively inexpensive to make, and it's absolutely packed with flavor. Meet me in the kitchen, let's make it happen.
A little pepper, a little steak.
First things first, let's go over the ingredients. Again, super simple ingredients. We have some dark soy sauce, some low sodium soy sauce. You can find this right beside the regular soy sauce at your grocery store. Sesame oil, brown sugar, garlic and ginger paste. That's going to be the components of our sauce plus a little seasoning. We're going to use the cornstarch as a slurry to kind of thicken things up. As far as the pepper steak goes, we're using flank steak today. You can use whatever steak you like, but flank steak is relatively common in this recipe. We're also got bell peppers here, red and green for the color contrast, but use whatever you have in the fridge, a little onion, and we're serving this up with some white rice. All right, guys, so as we said earlier, today we're using flank steak for this recipe. One of the most important things to remember about flank steak is, one, it can be a little bit tough if you don't prepare it properly. So there's these grains that you can see in the meat that run this way. When you're prepping flank steak, you want to cut against the grain. That's going to ensure that it stays nice and tender. Now, if you grill this up and you're making like carne asada tacos or something, then when you go to prep it, you want to slice it against the grain. We're going to go ahead and do that in advance today since we're making pepper steak. So again, the grains are running this way. That means we're slicing this way. Real simple, real easy, great pro tip. Flank steak, a lot of times can be relatively inexpensive. Today, though, it's about $14 a pound, which is not inexpensive in my opinion. But traditionally, you can usually find it on sale for the most part, at least here in Virginia. So we're going to slice this against the grain. You can kind of cut it in half if you feel like the pieces are too large. You can go like this and then slice it against the grain. So totally up to you and your desired size of your steak in this recipe. We're going for about 1/4 inch thick pieces here. You don't want it to be too thick. You want it to cook nice and fast, as most stir fry recipes will call for. There we go. Real quick reminder, guys, to go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you like recipes like this one, quick and easy, 30 minutes or less, that are big on flavor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on that bell so you don't miss any of these recipes. And now, my friends, it's time to make the marinade. This is the star of the show. That's kind of what makes pepper steak, right? So we're going in with 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, a 1/4 cup of low sodium soy sauce. We're just going to eyeball this. It's going to be close enough. You guys can measure it out if you like. 1 tablespoon each of garlic and ginger paste. A teaspoon of sesame oil. 1/2 teaspoon if you don't really like the flavor. Sometimes certain brands can have a little bit more of a punch to it. I really like this brand. It's from Kikkoman. Pretty standard at the grocery store, but this particular bottle has some good flavor and it's not overpowering. Then I'm going in with 1 teaspoon of dark soy sauce. It's going to help give a little bit more color and a little bit more concentrated flavor. We're going to season this with my AP and a little hot AP. The hot AP has some jalapeno powder and cayenne. We want to make sure that the flavors are balanced, so the cayenne and the jalapeno powder will help offset the brown sugar a little bit, kind of bring everything together. Break out the whisk and mix to combine. Taste as you go and adjust the flavor to your preference. This right here is going to be absolutely delicious. We're going to marinate the steak in this, kind of get in there with our hands and massage the marinade in. Cover it and pop it in the fridge for 2 to 24 hours. The leftover marinade, once we pull the steak out, we're going to add that along with our slurry to the remaining mixture. That's going to thicken up and make our sauce. All right, guys, we're making pepper steak. We already handled the steak portion of this. It's marinating in the fridge. And now, my friends, it's time to prep the veggies. One of the things I like about this particular recipe is I can use the scraps of other recipes. So I have a lot of peppers here that you can see that I've already been working with in previous recipes. Good best practice there. You don't want to waste anything. We're going to begin by prepping our onion. You guys have seen me do this a million times. Leave the root intact. It's the easiest way to slice your onion. Make sure your knife is nice and sharp. You're much more likely to cut yourself on a dull knife than you are a sharp one, because a dull knife will tend to slip on you, and that's when accidents happen. So if you're in the market for a knife, you can grab mine at mrmakeithappen.com, or just make sure that you have a nice sharp one available for you at your house. So we're going to prep this onion. I'm going to dice the onion and slice the bell pepper. Really no right or wrong way to do this, guys. You can do it however you feel. Again, we got the scraps we're working with first. I'm going to cut them like so. Nice thin pieces that'll cook down nicely. About like this. You're going to want about 3 total bell peppers for this recipe, depending on how many you're trying to feed. This is enough for about 5 or 6 servings, roughly. I think 3 bell peppers is about right for that. And that's about what we have between the 2 whole ones and our leftovers here. Now it's time to go ahead and cook the steak. We're going to add a little oil to the pan, about 2 tablespoons, and 2 tablespoons of butter, because butter makes everything better. Get that in there, let the pan get nice and hot, and then we're going to add our steak. I'm not dumping everything in. I'm going to lay the steak in there intentionally. That way we get some nice crust and color on the steak, and we preserve the leftover marinade that we're going to mix with our slurry. That's going to basically make the sauce once it's in here and we bring it to a boil. So we're going to go ahead and melt this butter first and foremost. Once the butter's melted, in goes the steak. You'll start to hear that butter sizzle here in a second. And that'll indicate that it's time to add in your flank steak. All right, guys, so while we're getting some color on our steak, it's important to go ahead and give that the proper amount of time. We want nice color, nice texture. We don't want to overcook the steak. We're going to check that in about a minute or 2. Meanwhile, we're going to make the slurry. So for that, you need 2 tablespoons of cornstarch going into the remainder of the marinade that we have from our steak. And then we're going to add a couple tablespoons of water as well. And just get in there with your whisk and try to get all that flavor up off the edges of the bowl. And just give it a good mix to combine. You want to try to break up any clumps in there. And this is what we're going to pour into the pan here that's going to make our sauce. So just whisk it to combine. No flavor left behind. We're using up all that leftover marinade. And then we'll add that in just a minute. Once we remove the steak, it's time to cook the veggies. We're going in with our onion first, followed by our bell pepper. Get all of that in there. Gonna give this a little mix. And then for flavor and added color, I'm going in with about another tablespoon of this dark soy sauce here. Give that a good mix to combine. You want to cook this for a good 5 to 10 minutes, really, depending on the size of your bell peppers that you sliced. You want them to get relatively tender. You don't want them to be super soft and mushy, but you want them to tenderize a bit and cook. So give them a little time. We'll add the steak back in, add the sauce, everything will thicken up, and then we'll plate this up with some white rice. So once the peppers start to tenderize and get a little bit soft, like you see right here, it's time to go ahead and add in the slurry with the remaining marinade. You want to do this a little bit ahead of time, that way it has some time to boil. That way it's safe to eat, guys. Once you bring it to a boil, it kills off any bacteria that you might be concerned about. And it's a good way to not let your marinade go to waste. So we're going to get that in there. Let this finish cooking, let it boil, let it simmer. The sauce will start to thicken up. If it gets too thick, you can add a splash of water or beef stock, which I'm about to do right now because I can see that it thickened up pretty quickly there. No big deal. That's why we got the water at the ready. You can use beef broth if you want to, but give that a good mix and then just allow it to really cook off. Now at this point, it's time to go ahead and add the steak back to the party and any accumulated juices that may have came out of that steak. We don't want any flavor left behind, folks. So get that in there, give that a good mix, let the steak finish cooking. In about another 2 or 3 minutes, we'll be having some delicious pepper steak with some white rice. 30 minutes or less, big on flavor, great for meal prep, relatively healthy as well, and you just can't go wrong with a good pepper steak. Let me know in the comments what other 30-minute meals you like, any other takeout specials you want to see. Also, if you like recipes like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell. Got plenty of comfort food on the way with the fall and football season on the way. Got a lot of great ideas for you guys. You can grab all these printable recipes at MrMakeItHappen.com as well. And now, my friends, it's about time to plate this up. All right, guys, so for presentation purposes, we have a ramekin here, or a small bowl that we sprayed with cooking spray. We got some perfectly cooked rice in there. That's going to give us that little rice mound that you get when you go out to eat. Just like that. You see no rice left behind. Spraying it with that cooking spray, great pro tip. Now I'm going to go ahead and layer in the beef and the peppers all around the rice. And then we're going to garnish this up with some toasted sesame seeds and a little chive. This is a bigger bowl than I probably would typically serve this in, but it's going to look good in the thumbnail. All right, guys, we got it plated up beautifully with the chives and the sesame seeds. This is the part where I say, brace yourself for a trademark money shot. Say it with me, guys. Looking good. The only thing left to do is dig in for the taste test. But before we do that, please take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell to enable notifications as well. All right, people. Found my chopsticks. Got some beef. Got some, oh, lots of pepper. Going back for the pepper. Cheers. Mmm. That's good. Flavor. You're gonna love this recipe.
You already said pepper steak. So.
Recipes, and I save that for moments when I want to make pepper steak or whatever vegetable or whatever recipe calls. And